So we have Infido, which touches the employees at different intervals, asking very humane questions. How do you feel today? Did you have a chat with your manager? And how do you feel about the manager or the senior management? There are very, very good insights, relevant insights, which might have not come to me if I had gone and visited that branch or that employee.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the People Led Show. I'm your host, Shivangi, and our guest for today is the amazing Rashmi Priya. Rashmi is the head of HR at IIFL Home Finance. She's been instrumental in establishing a culture of continuous learning and development with initiatives like LMS, training programs, and career development for programs for close to 5,000 employees. With over 15 years of experience at Axis Bank and now at IIFL, Rashmi has been a driving force in shaping the human capital landscape, especially in the BFSI sector. Get ready to gain insights from Rashmi's rich personal experience and learn from her remarkable achievements. Welcome, Rashmi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Shani, for the kind words. Truly humbled by the great words that you spoke about me. It's been quite an exhilarating journey, as you mentioned. Yeah, thank you.
So great to know that. Rashmi, so I want to start off a little bit easier. I want to start fun. We know what you do. We've all
Yeah.
seen that through the years, but I personally want to know what is Rashmi outside of work? What do you like and enjoy beyond the 9 to 5?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. But today, we are exposed to so many things in the world of OTTs and whatnot. But yeah, the small joys of life, this family, friends, it's always there. You love to spend time once you're out of the office with your kids, with your friends. And I like sports. So I used to be hockey captain in my college days. So really enjoyed the matches also. So it's and it's a very generic one, but I love reading and I practice yoga in my free time. So yeah.
Oh, I feel like we have a lot to talk about, including running, sports, hockey. I want to discuss the World Cup, but later after the call. Rashmi, I wanted to ask you. I know that among the many things that you just mentioned, I know you're also passionate about employee experience and enabling your people at every position and every organization that you've been at. But from your vast experience of so many years, I want to understand what are two to three challenges, employee experience challenges that you as a people leader want answers to in 2024?
So Rangi, the basic building block of any person, not just an employee, any person, once the person has reached the basic first few levels of Maslow's hierarchy, is the person is being trusted. He's been giving due respect when he's talking or he's expressing something or she's expressing something, is what I've come across at all the times. So if somebody is saying something or trying to share something, if that person feels that he's not being listened to and is not being due acknowledgement or due importance, it's what is lacking. I feel that if in coming months we are able to address such a thing, that each and every employee should not feel that he has not been heard, that he felt that he has something to share, she has something to share, and that he could not find or she could not find a platform to share that. If that can be addressed in a truly human way, it'll be a great experience for me, as will be an achievement.
I think that says volume about you as a human being and as a people leader, and how both these qualities coincide, right? Like just the need to be heard and you recognizing that for your employees. And you said a couple of things about, trust, and creating a culture of listening. I want to come back to it. I have some couple of questions to ask you on that. But before that, I wanted to ask you, what is an ideal culture for you?
An organization has its own personality. It's
Mhm.
an individual, and all the departments, the employees, the functions, everybody should be aligned to that organization and organization culture. For example, if he or she can confidently say that I am the person who has and its place of importance. I'm contributing to the overall well-being of the organization, and I'm heard, and I have the power to execute my responsibilities. And the whole organization is able to speak confidently that my people are able to talk openly and they can discuss things openly. It's complete transparency there, and the organization trusts the people, and vice versa. As an employee doesn't feel as if he's an individual, he's part of the whole.
Yeah, I think that that's a very important point that they need to feel like they're part of the brand. They're,
Yeah.
important to the fabric of the organization and they very much imbibe it. That's a
Yes.
great point. So, what do you think, dealing with so many people and like when I read close to 5,000 employees, it kind of blew my mind that on a daily basis, that's the number of employees that you manage. What is the collective expectation of the employee of today?
Today's employees are quite evolved. It is not Roti Kapda Makaan anymore. They are looking for a meaning in their life and a purpose in their work. So if they're not able to see the purpose, they will look purpose somewhere else. The anxiety builds in. You might have seen the BCG matrix of amazement cycle. So most of the employees who are on the verge of resigning, they are on the anxiety level. What next for me, or what am I doing, or the worry phase? Is it right for me? If that, if we are able to address, then the person comes to the amazement cycle. So addressing the anxiety and the worry part of the employee is what I have been coming across of late.
That's very interesting. I wanted to ask you said that there are a couple of anxieties that people face, while right before they're about to resign. Have you,
Yeah,
in your experience, noticed, what are these anxieties related to,
yeah.
especially specifically regarding their work culture
Hmm.
or,
Hmm.
the kind of work that they're doing?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you something with an example. One of the employees had come to me, and we are an evolving organization ever since I've joined them. We are developing new processes and systems. So there are certain things which are not clear. So the person was a high performer, but the person did not know what exactly she is going to bring on the table. There was a communication gap between the manager and the employee, and that built on her anxiety levels. How to go about it? Am I doing the right thing or not? So that anxiety, if not addressed, would have probably led to my stark fear of her resigning. But thankfully, in the right nick of the time, we caught it and we had a discussion. And just to assure that we all on the same side, it is not on the opposite side of the table that you're working on. And we are also in that haze phase and we are trying to figure out things. And it's okay to have anxiety, which is good, which means that we want to clear out things. Or, for example, there's another anxiety also. Somebody goes on maternity leave. The anxiety of the person to come back, and if the position is still there, if the network is still there or not, to assure that person that everything will remain the same is very, very critical to keep in touch with that person. So these kind of anxieties are everywhere in the organization and in a small bit pieces and in a bigger piece, we call it a macro anxiety. It is at the back of the mind, people are not talking about. And when somebody talks to them, it comes out. And thankfully, it comes out because then we are able to address it.
I think a couple of great points came out of there. One of them being, just keeping in touch with your employees. I want to understand how do you exactly do that? How do you keep, in touch with the pulse of your employees, considering there are like so many segments of employees? How
Yeah.
do you make sure that you're listening to all of them? What are your listening
Mhm.
channels?
Okay. Thankfully, we had Infido coming in quite early. In I think it's 2016 that we onboarded Infido, and because at that time our employee strength was, if I'm not wrong, 1100. And at that time also it was, for me, it was big because connecting to all the employees to understand what are their anxiety, their queries, or their suggestions also, because employees have amazing suggestions. And it will be quite a loss to the organization if they're not listening to them. So we have Infido, which touches the employees at different intervals, asking very humane questions. How do you feel today? Did you have a chat with your manager? And how do you feel about the manager or the senior management? There are very, very good insights, relevant insights, which might have not come to me if I had gone and visited that branch or that employee. I'll tell you why, Shivangi. If I go to a branch, and now we are more than 325 branches across, that to tier three cities. So, which means that travel to air, flight say train, train say auto, yeah, taxi, yeah, whatever. So, even then, if I connect or talk to those employees, it will take me some time to break the ice. While Infero is giving me instant, mm, real answers to where the problem lies. So the chat is reaching out to all the employees. They are giving me feedback. We are actioning upon them and we're telling them, hey, we heard you and we respect what you suggested. We're acting this thing to you. Gives a lot of assurance to the employees that she has been heard and had been acted upon. That gives a lot of mental peace to the employees. Yeah.
I love it. I love the fact that you mentioned that, another unique problem to the BFSI industry, that there are so many branches, there are so many employees across tiers of the country, like the tier two and tier three cities, and something that we call feet on street, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
how do you really keep them engaged? Because those are the first ones to
Yeah.
kind of feel a little bit disengaged.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Shwangi, there are feet on street employees who are actually implementing what we are thinking and making. The policies that we are making here is the one who they are the one who are implementing it. If they find something amiss, we will not get to know until these guys level. It's humanly not possible to talk to each one of them, understand what is going well and what is not going well. So this pulse survey is helping us a lot. There was Tirunachapalli where we got to know that the local legal policy needs to be updated. We wouldn't have got to know because we're all central. We got it updated. We got it updated for Maharashtra. So the policy changes at the strategic level is happening from the ground up.
That is such a brilliant example. That kind of perpetuates trust
Yeah.
at you sitting in Gurgaon and your employees sitting in another city. That's a great connection. I
Yes.
think that's very important to kind of build trust.
It's absolutely very important because in the end, the employee and employer relationship is built on trust. The employer believes that employee is going to adhere to the certain set of code of conduct that it has started out for the employees, and employees trust the employers that their career growth will be taken care by the employer. There is some trust factor which the employee is putting in when the person is talking to me via the chat booth, talking about these issues around her. And if I am acting upon at least even one action item, there's a trust that's built. And that solidifies my employee's longevity with me.
And yeah, I completely agree with that. Since you haven't used Infido before, I want to ask you, where do you think you can build trust better, whether it's with confidentiality or anonymity?
I think it's confidential. Uh, that the person who's talking to me is assured that it is confidential. Whatever the person is talking and sharing with me, it will be treated with respect and due, not secrecy, but confidential things that it will be taken care of. Anonymity, I would say, is more of a higher level. At extreme level, something is starkly gone wrong, then probably the people would expect anonymous. But our organization, we feel that we are transparent and we believe in calling a spade a spade. So if something is going wrong, we should call it out and we applaud that fact that the person has pointed that out. And it should be taken in a positive sense. And I think that's how one of our success mantra that we have taken all the big bats on the face and improved upon it.
Can you walk me through the process? What are the key steps that you take when you implement feedback, and what does your action process look like?
So first is socializing the whole idea of that we are going to have such a kind of ecosystem in the organization where we are going to take feedback from the employees and also to give a feel to the employees that is really important to the organization. We say that directly the CEO will be looking into the feedback and that it's totally confidential. And any action that is taken is for the betterment of the organization. That kind of socializing is, if done, it's half adoption done. And then we, for example, if I give an example of my company, we have a fortnightly meeting with our CEO where we give the snapshot of all the cases that we've got, the feedbacks, the PTM cases, person to meet cases, and then we bucket the responses into grievances, suggestions, process, or system related. And then we assign spokes to them. And basis, and then in the following fortnight, we tell the CEO what action has been taken and that thing has been closed, the action item has been closed, and then communicate to the employee. And because of that, I think people have been very honest in their feedback. Um, they feel Amber is their companion. So there's a gold mine that we've got there. We got a lot of good feedback. I'll give you an example. So in itself, there was a female who had given that there is so much going on the office floor. Always somebody's talking. There is phone pop-up is coming up all the time. So there are a lot of diversions and we don't have a place in the office where we just can go and think or do some creative thinking or brainstorming. That came on our Pulse on Amber chatbot. And we had one brainstorming room created where there's no internet, there's no mobile tower. So that's the kind of I think trust that we are building in through our chatbot, which people also have seen the impact.
Any survey is as good as the action it brings along. We're like
Yeah.
big supporters of that with you. Okay, I'm just gonna shift gears a little bit, Rashmi, and I want to ask you one question that I feel like objectively that
Mhm.
people who are listening to this podcast are going to be noting this. What are some key indicators or KPIs that you track when it comes to employee experience?
So depend on the dashboard that I have for Infido. It gives engagement score and the mood score and the people to meet and the cases closed. And that's a fairly objective way of showcasing how am I doing as an organization and how my people feel and how they connect with the organization. So any dip in the number, be it engagement or mood score, it's a red mark, and we try to deep dive where and what went wrong. Because and there is a high correlation between the engagement score and the productivity matrix of our employees. It's amazing, Shivangi. If I chart over the month, my engagement score and the business productivity, they are almost like a parallel line for me. So it's a business case actually. So it's quite objective and it's very trackable.
Do you have some recommendation for the HR leaders who are going to be watching this? How can they tackle attrition at their organization?
It might be repetitive, but uh, the respect and trust is first and foremost. If the employee feels individually connected to the manager and to the top management, if he or she thinks there's a purpose of his role or her role, I think then there's a strong tie that's difficult to break if that is done. And the connect at a large scale can be maintained by a AI chatbot itself, where the employee should feel that somebody's talking to me and listening to me and is empathizing with me. And whatever I say would be taken due cognizance of and acted upon. If we spend probably an hour's time every 2 days, I think it's more than sufficient to build the connect and build the tie, which is unbreakable.
So I know that you mentioned a couple of great points, like having trust, keeping in touch with the pulse of the employees, just being aware and cognizant of how their mental well-being is. How important do you think managers are when it comes to engaging employees and also keeping your best people in the organization?
Very important. The manager is the first touch point who will give the the trust, the purpose, the respect that you're talking about. He is a spokesperson of the organization to the employee. And if it's that place where the employee and the employer connection starts, and if he's able to assure that the manager will be taking care of the employee, I think it's the half problem solved.
And how do you enable managers to do the same?
So when I said the socializing part of it, so we hold meetings and orient them about the feedback. So we have also a, a feedback policy. How do you take feedback? How do you treat a feedback? And how do you treat the person who's given the feedback? So that there's no giving back to the employee in a negative way. And so that there's a environment of trust that's built upon. The success of the ecosystem is dependent on that.
Awesome. That's a great insight. I think in maybe in the long term, and as and when we figure out the strategies, managers can be very instrumental in helping organizations control attrition as well, because they're the people who notice these changes first. Thank you so much for being so candid and so honest with everything that you said, Rashmi. I had an amazing time asking you these questions.
Amen. I loved talking to you. It was absolute pleasure.